I hear you have been looking for me, mortal. Welcome to my manor, and please mind yours, lest you lose what you so charmingly refer to as your life. So it is the power of the immortal vampires you seek for your general? I can't say I blame you. We vampires are the only choice when it comes to commander, or did Wizards of the Coast make an angel tribal deck that I didn't hear of? No? Exactly. When selecting a vampire commander, first you should determine the colors that you wish to define them. Black for ambition and greed, such as Anwin the Ruined Sage? My. I do like his physique, but his talents are rather limited. Perhaps something more complex? Vampires can also occupy red for our bloodlust and white for tribal family laws. So you might instead pursue Lycia, the legendary vampire general of white, black, and red. Lycia, Sanguine Tribune, first strike, lifelink. Pay 5 life. Put 3 +1/+1 counters on Lycia. Activate this ability only on your turn and only once each turn. But I must say, she seems like an overkill. I mean, Mardu can do. But if you desire greatness at any cost, then there's only one vampire general for you. Myself. In my case, for 1 and a red, I can deal 1 damage to target creature, turn it into a vampire, and put a +1/+1 counter on myself. Then for 3 and 2 black, you gain control of target vampire for as long as I am on the battlefield. If you just throw together a deck full of any old vampires, you're not going to be able to take full advantage of my abilities. A proper Olivia Voldaren deck is primarily mono black, big mana control, with a splash of red for some spice, and a package of only the finest vampires to stand by my side while crushing your enemies. Normally when you think about ramp and mana acceleration, you think of green, with poor little dirty elves toiling away to fetch your lands. How inelegant. Black has a more refined way of powering up. The classic card here, Cabal Coffers, which taps for black mana equal to the number of swamps you control, -2 you need to use to activate it. We're going to be running a lot of swamps, but since we're not mono-colored, we definitely want Urabog, Tomb of Yawgmoth, to turn any pesky mountains or utility lands into proper swamps. An expedition map to help fetch whatever you're missing. Magus of the Coffers is a cheaper backup version of the same effect on a squishy creature. We can also double our mana with Cryptghast, and the more appropriately vampiric Nirkana Revenant, emphasizing again that swamp synergy is key. Cage Sun is almost the same effect on an artifact, and the power boost to creature is welcome. Liliana of the Dark Realms is an oft-forgotten Liliana whose abilities are almost comically useless in most decks. But here she's right at home. She'll sit there quietly helping you hit your land drops and maybe kill a thing or two. But if you can protect her and get to her ultimate, then we're in a new game entirely. I also know my way around a weapon. Sword of the Animus lets me fetch out swamps as I attack, while Sword of Feast and Famine does everything I want, with discard, land untapping, and some protection to throw in there. But to get to our big mana plans, we need to get out the gate fast. And for that, we need Artifact Ramp. The usual peasant mana rocks like Soul Ring, Jet Medallion, and Rakdos Signet are fine, but this is not the place to skimp. Go out and get me a Mox Diamond, Lotus Petal, maybe a Mana Crypt. Trust me, I'm worth it. Mere mortals are content to simply draw their card each turn and hope pathetically it's what they need. Vampires go out and get what they want. Black has some of the best card draw and tutors in the game, though always at a price. And vampires are willing to pay, though it might be with your blood. Vampiric Tutor is obviously the best tutor, but we'll need to play a few inferior ones to put our plans into motion. Demonic Tutor and Dark Petition will do, but with all our mana, increasing ambition is a very appropriate way to find multiple cards. Phyrexian Arena and Underworld Connections let us draw an extra card each turn at the cost of a little life. Greed and Erebos, God of the Dead, let us more directly turn life and mana into cards, and Necropotence can be potent indeed, if used used correctly. It lets you pay life for cards with no mana involved at all, but you can only get this card right before your discard phase. We can't abuse it like combo decks, but getting to top up our hand at every turn and maybe filter a bit will get us ahead quick. With all the life I'm paying to put my plans into motion, I'm going to need to get some of it back. And who better to take it from than all of you? The basilisk collar is the height of fashion, although I do have trouble fitting it over my neck thing. It turns my ping ability into instant death while letting me gain life. Whip of Erebos gives all my minions lifelink and lets me reanimate fallen colleagues for a last hurrah. We need a plan to keep our opponents down so they don't interfere with our nefarious machinations. This is where the red part of my color identity really shines, giving me access to an interaction from another slice of the color pie. We can wipe the board of troublesome creatures with classics like Damnation, Toxic Deluge, and Black Sun's Zenith, but we can also use the very efficient Blasphemous Act. Black has no shortage of ways of killing creatures, like Hero's Downfall and Dismember, but red lets us deal with artifacts with Colligan's Command, Rakdos Charm, and especially Vandal Blast. Chaos Warp is a color pie busting answer to anything, with some randomness thrown in. I never shy from imposing a painful quandary on my opponents to slow them down, but my favorite bit of hate is Words of Waste. In combination with our draw spells, we can spend a bit of mana and life to make everyone else discard into oblivion. Don't hesitate to add appropriate hate pieces for whatever your playgroup tends to get up to. Use Torpor Orb for ETB effects, Trinisphere for Storm, or just shut everything down with Winter Orb, and rely on your mana rocks and doubling effects to come out ahead. The only limit to the cruelty you can inflict on your enemies is your imagination. So what creatures are worthy to stand by my side on the field of battle? I'm not going to limit myself to vampires, but there are a few who reach the high bar I set. Drana Calastrial Bloodchief is an old friend of mine, and she proves an excellent outlet for all the mana we're making, pumping herself while killing most anything. Dark Imposter can also provide a mana sink, while doing a better experiment Kraj impression than Kraj itself. Thief of Blood is great fun if your opponents play Planeswalkers, and both iterations of Kalitas have their uses in growing our army. Sangromancer helps to keep our life total up, and Butcher of Malakir keeps our opponents' creatures down. Say what you like about Soren Markov, though he is a fool for creating that pesky Avacyn in the first place. But putting an opponent to 10 life in Commander is a very nice way to keep them vulnerable. Beyond vampires though, Sheoldred Whispering One is a must-answer threat that will swing the board in your favor every turn she's allowed to exist. Massacre Worm does an exemplary job of dealing with token swarms, while Sidisi Undead Vizier is a tutor on a stick. Karvak the Merciless punishes my opponents for casting anything, while Vile Smasher, the Fierce, rewards me for doing the same. A wonderful combination. Harvester of Souls gives us an ongoing source of draw as we go about our business of decimating our opponent's armies. Beating your opponents down with a crew of villains has a certain charm, but ultimately it's a rather plebeian way to win. Much better to spend your enormous reserve of mana on a massive exsanguate and simply drain your opponents out. Or how about the famous Sanguine Bond Exquisite Blood combo? Most decks have trouble finding the mana to find and play 2 5-drop enchantments in one turn, but we've got the tutors and mana production to make it happen. I also enjoy a good aggravated assault to let me dump my mana into extra combat steps. And with Swords of Feast and Famine, I can just keep untapping my lands and paying for combat steps until everyone is dead. Insurrection is a fun way to win out of nowhere, and few decks have an easier time finding 8 mana than ours does. So when you seek to rule the meek in your next Commander Night, take flight with yours truly, Olivia Voldaren. Though I warn you, my price is a high one.
Oh, hi Olivia. Wow, that is a high price to pay for what's essentially just a tier 1.5 commander. Sure, you could buy all those cards, or just spend $34.99 down at your local games store and pick up Lycia's 2017 Commander Precon, which is an excellent way to play Commander with friends right out of the box. And let's be honest, why would anyone want to limit themselves to red-black vampires when they could play red-black-white? I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Domri raid? Are you joking?
But he's the coolest Gruul planeswalker there is.
That's funny, because he doesn't look like a middle-aged werewolf to me.
I
Farm.
your
Mouth.
I have 4 of these out on my deck at home. How is this your invention?
Mine looks different, therefore it's my invention.
And if you use your imagination, it looks a little bit like some kind of robot dog, don't you think? Or perhaps some kind of robot vole?
Wow, that Master of Fine Arts degree is in full form today, isn't it, Professor?